Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at how you can manipulate and basically generate HTML using scriptlets in your JSPs. So I've got a couple of JSPs already, and I'll create another one just for this tutorial. So let's right click Web Content and go to New JSP, and let's call this, I don't know, manipulations.jsp. Let's click Finish. Now, we've already seen that you can embed Java in your JSP, but one of the surprising things about this is the way that you can use things like if statements and loops in Java to actually control HTML. So let's take a look at an example. I'm going to just put a scriptlet tag in here, so bracket and a %sign, and let's have a loop here. So let's say for int I equals 0, I less than 5, and I plus plus. So this is just an absolutely normal Java loop, except I'm going to close the loop down here in a separate scriptlet. So I'm going to say here, so another one of these, and let's just put a closing bracket in here. Now in the middle here, so in fact maybe it will be clearer if I just put this on one line like that. So we've got two scriptlets starting and ending a for loop, and in the middle let's just put some HTML and see what happens to it. So I can say here, this is this. Well, let's have some proper HTML actually. So I'll just I'll use a P tag. P stands for paragraph, and I'll say this HTML is in a scriptlet loop, and let's just close the P tag here. So P tag is just another way of creating new lines basically. So let's run that and see what happens. Click Finish here, and as you can see the loop has actually looped the HTML. And let's say I wanted the index counter here, so I could say here I could have a scriptlet %. In fact, I can use the equals scriptlet. So let's just output either, and let's say iteration I, like that. So let's see if that works. So although I is a integer, and as far as I know this has got to evaluate to a string, I think Java will auto box it with an integer with a capital I, and then call the toString method on that. So I think this should work. So let's run this and click Finish, and there we are, we've got the loop counter. So this is very handy, especially for things like later on we're going to look at how you display the contents of databases, and like a common thing to do would be to create a table in HTML and then have the separate rows generated in a loop like this. Although we're also going to take a look at a pretty different way of doing this using JSTL tags later on as well. So you can see this is very flexible. You can do all kinds of things in here, and I'm just going to show you one more example here. Let's take a look at having some HTML that appears under one circumstance but not another. So no prizes for guessing. I'm going to use an if here, and in fact let's get a URL parameter. Let's say string ID equals and I'll say request. So I'll just do control space here to autocomplete it. Request dot get parameter. Let's call it ID, and now I can say if ID equals null. In other words, if a parameter has not been supplied, let's say down here then I'll output the HTML saying let's have maybe a strong tag to emphasize the text. ID parameter missing. There we go. And again, Eclipse is auto completing the strong tag there. And then in a separate scriptlet, I've got to close off that part of the if statement, and then I can have a else. So let's say else, and open another section there. And actually I'll already close this just so I don't forget. So let's close the if there. And now I can say here ID parameter is, and I could use one of these equals, % equals scriptlet tags to say, so it's going to be, I just output ID here. So ID here is this variable here, and let's also just put, yeah, that's already in a paragraph, so that's okay. If you want a bit more space in your HTML, like a blank line, you can always just have a paragraph tag like this, so a self-contained tag that closes itself like that. So with that syntax, you don't need an opening and closing tag. Okay, let's run that and see how it looks. So if I run this now, it says ID parameter missing because there's no ID parameter. And if I put a question mark here, I can say ID equals 8, let's say, and there we go, ID parameter is 8. So seeing conditional inclusion of HTML just by kind of breaking the if statement up into separate scriptlet sections. And you might wonder, incidentally, if this scriptlet is being if the JSP is being like restarted for every request, because the JSP compiles to a servlet, and then the servlet is started up when you start Tomcat, and actually this doGet method will be called repeatedly every time you do a get in your browser. So I just wanted to mention that it's not like this whole servlet will be started and init will be called over and over again. It's just that the servlet runs whether it's compiled from JSP or not, and doGet is called repeatedly whenever it needs to service a request. So just thought I'd drop that in there. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. Join me again next time, and until next time, happy coding.